Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It was supposed to be a quiet evening at Crimson Lights, just a normal night for Sharon Newman, who thought her life had finally calmed down after months of chaos surrounding Noah's accident, Audra's meltdown, and all the unanswered questions about what truly happened in Los Angeles. But peace never stays long in Genoa City. Not when secrets simmer just beneath the surface. And this time, the storm brewing had a name, Sienna Bacall. She wasn't just the mysterious woman connected to Noah's accident. She wasn't just the woman who'd thrown the Newman family into disarray. No, Sienna had come to drop a bombshell that would blow Sharon's world apart and send Nick spiraling into a guilt-ridden nightmare that he'd never escape. The cafe was unusually quiet when Nick walked in, his expression tense and eyes darting toward the door as if he expected something, or someone, to happen. Sharon, standing behind the counter, caught the flicker of unease in his eyes. "Nick," she said, concern threading through her voice. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Nick forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You could say that," he muttered, glancing toward the door again. And then, right on cue, Sienna Bacall stepped in. The bell above the door chimed, a soft sound that somehow echoed like a gunshot in Sharon's chest. She froze, her heart pounding, recognizing instantly that nothing about this woman's arrival meant peace. Sienna looked composed, but there was a tremor in her hands, a storm behind her steady gaze. "Sharon," Nick began nervously, "there's something we need to talk about. Something I should have told you a long time ago." Sienna's voice broke through the tension like a shard of glass. "Actually, Nick," she said, her tone steady but her eyes watery, "I'll tell her. She deserves to hear it from me." The air thickened. Sharon's eyes darted between them, confusion etched across her face. "What's going on? Why are you both acting like someone died?" Sienna took a deep breath and stepped closer. 10 years ago, she began, "Nick and we had a brief relationship. It wasn't serious, or at least, that's what I thought at the time. But something happened. Something neither of us ever expected." Nick's face paled as Sharon's brow furrowed. "What are you talking about, Sienna?" "I have a daughter," Sienna whispered, her voice breaking. "We have a daughter. She's 10 years old, Nick. Her name is Lila, and she's yours." The words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. For a moment, Sharon didn't even breathe. The world around her, the soft hum of the espresso machine, the quiet chatter of distant tables, faded into nothing but the ringing in her ears. She stared at Nick, her lips trembling. "Please tell me she's lying," Sharon whispered, her voice almost childlike in its disbelief. Nick couldn't look at her. His silence was the answer. Sienna swallowed hard, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "I didn't mean to keep her a secret. At first, I wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do. But when I found out you had a family again, Nick, when I saw how happy you were with Sharon and the kids, I couldn't destroy that." She looked at Sharon with genuine regret. "But when I came back to town and saw everything unraveling with Noah, I realized I couldn't hide the truth any longer. Lila deserves to know her father." Sharon's face went pale, her hands gripping the counter for support. "You've got to be kidding me," she whispered. "You come in here, after everything you've already done to this family, and tell me that you and Nick have a child together? A 10-year-old child?" Her voice cracked, anger laced with heartbreak. "Nick, how could you not know? Or worse, did you know?" Nick finally met her eyes, pain and shame flooding his expression. "I swear, Sharon, I didn't know," he said, voice trembling. "I had no idea. It was one night, after everything that happened with us back then. I wasn't in a good place. Sienna and I crossed paths in LA, and it just happened. But I never knew she was pregnant. That doesn't make it better." Sharon snapped, slamming her hand on the counter. Her tears started to fall freely now, raw and furious. "You keep finding new ways to break me, Nick. I've forgiven you for so many mistakes, for cheating, for lying, for every secret that came out years too late, and now this? She turned to Sienna, eyes blazing. And you came into my life pretending to care about Noah's case, pretending to be this innocent woman with secrets to protect, when all along you were keeping this? Sienna stepped forward cautiously. Sharon, please, I didn't want to hurt you. I wanted to protect my daughter. Lila's never asked about her father, but lately, she's been asking questions. She deserves the truth. Sharon laughed bitterly, shaking her head. The truth? You wouldn't know truth if it slapped you in the face. You've been manipulating everyone since the day you arrived in Genoa City. And now you want me to believe that this is about a child's right to know her father? Nick interjected, desperate to calm the storm. Sharon, please, don't take this out on Lila. None of this is her fault. Don't you dare say her name to me, Sharon snapped. You had a child, Nick, a child you never knew existed, and somehow it still feels like you betrayed me again. Because you let this woman walk into our lives without warning, and now she's blown everything apart. The tension was suffocating. Sienna turned away, crying silently. I didn't come here to start a war, she whispered. I came here to do what's right. Lila's been asking about her father. She deserves to know him. I thought, maybe, Nick would want to know her too. Nick's voice softened, but his face was drawn with guilt. Of course I want to know her, he said. She's my daughter. I can't believe I've missed 10 years of her life. I can't believe I wasn't there for her first words, her first steps, his voice cracked. God, Sharon, I never meant for this to happen. Sharon's anger turned to anguish. That's what you always say, Nick, you never mean for it to happen. But it always does. There's always some woman, some secret, some piece of your past that destroys what we're trying to rebuild. She backed away, trembling. I can't do this right now. I can't even look at you. Nick tried to reach out, but Sharon jerked away. Don't touch me, she shouted, her voice echoing through the cafe. Every customer had stopped what they were doing, their eyes fixed on the confrontation unraveling before them. Sienna wiped her tears, stepping toward the door. I'll go, she said softly. But Nick, please, think about what I said. Lila deserves to know you. I'm not asking for anything else. Sharon's voice dripped with venom. Oh, don't worry, he'll think about it. He's got a lot to think about now, doesn't he? As Sienna slipped out the door, the silence that followed was deafening. Sharon turned her gaze back to Nick, her face a mixture of heartbreak and disbelief. I thought we were finding our way back to each other, she said, her voice trembling. After everything we've been through, losing Cassie, losing Faith for a while, nearly losing Noah, I thought maybe we had finally learned from our mistakes. But I was wrong. Sharon, Nick pleaded, his voice low, desperate. Please, don't walk away. Let's talk about this. There's nothing left to say, Sharon whispered. You have another child, Nick. And once again, I'm the fool who didn't see it coming. She turned and walked toward the back room, her footsteps quick, her breathing uneven. Nick stood there in the empty cafe, his heart pounding, his mind spinning with the impossible reality he'd just been hit with. Outside, Sienna stood on the sidewalk, staring at the night sky. Her tears fell freely now, not just from guilt, but from fear. She had done what she came to do, but she knew the fallout had only begun. The Newmans would never see her the same way again. Sharon's fury was only the beginning, and she feared that even Nick, the man whose name she'd once whispered in the dark, might hate her for the truth she revealed. Later that night, Sharon sat alone in her living room, the memories replaying over and over like a nightmare she couldn't escape. She saw Nick's face when Sienna said the words, "We have a daughter." She heard his silence. She felt that gut punch of betrayal that she thought she'd never feel again. 10 years old, she whispered bitterly to herself. 10 years. All that time, and he never even knew. Across town, Nick sat alone in his car, parked in front of his house, staring into nothing. He couldn't stop thinking about Lila, a daughter he'd never met, a little girl who shared his blood but not his memories. And then there was Sharon, the woman he'd hurt again without ever meaning to. He wanted to fix it, but this time, he didn't even know where to start. In the coming days, word would spread fast. Phyllis would hear about it and remind Sharon that she should have seen this coming. Victoria would corner Nick and demand answers about Sienna and this mystery child. And when Victor found out, there would be hell to pay, because the Newman legacy had just gained another heir, one born of a scandal that threatened to tear the family apart. But for now, the quiet after the storm was unbearable. Sharon sat with tears streaming down her face, clutching a photo of her children, wondering how much more her heart could take. And somewhere out there, a little girl named Lila Bacall, with Nick Newman's eyes and Sienna's smile, slept peacefully, unaware that her existence had just set Genoa City ablaze. For Sharon, this wasn't just another heartbreak. This was the end of the illusion that her life with Nick could ever be simple again. And as the night deepened, one haunting thought echoed in her mind: if Sienna could keep this secret for 10 years, what else hasn't come to light yet? Because in Genoa City, one truth always leads to another, and Sharon Newman's world had only just begun to unravel. The next morning in Genoa City dawned gray and heavy, the kind of morning that seemed to match the storm brewing inside Sharon's heart. Sleep had been impossible. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Nick and Sienna standing together at crimson lights, heard the words that shattered her peace: "We have a daughter." Her heart raced, her stomach twisted, and the tears she tried to hold back all night kept returning. Sharon had been through heartbreak before: betrayal, divorce, death, and even madness. But this felt different. It wasn't just that Nick had another child, it was that the secret had been hidden for a decade, festering in the dark while Sharon believed their lives were finally settling down. She had thought they were rebuilding, that all the years of heartbreak had led them back to a more mature, grounded love. But now, every dream she'd held close had shattered into pieces she couldn't put back together. Meanwhile, across town, Nick sat in his car outside Sienna's apartment building. He'd been there for over an hour, just staring at the front door, gripping the steering wheel as if it were the only thing holding him together. His mind kept racing back to one question: how could I not have known? He'd spent 10 years walking this earth, unaware that his own child existed. He thought of Cassie, the daughter he lost, and Faith, the daughter he'd nearly lost. And now there was Lila. He took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. Each step toward that apartment felt heavier than the last. When he knocked on Sienna's door, his pulse was hammering in his ears. The door opened slowly, and Sienna stood there, her expression cautious. "Nick," she said softly. "You came." "I had to," he replied quietly. "I need to see her." Sienna stepped aside, gesturing him in. "She's still getting ready for school," she said. "I didn't tell her who you were, just that a friend was coming by." Nick swallowed hard, his throat tight. The apartment was cozy, with children's drawings taped to the walls, bright splashes of color, stick figures, and hearts. One drawing caught his eye, a little girl standing between a woman and a man drawn in crayon. Above it, in messy handwriting, was written "Me, Mommy, and Daddy, in heaven." Nick's chest tightened. "She thinks her dad's dead?" he asked softly. Sienna nodded, guilt flashing across her face. "I didn't know what else to tell her, Nick. When she was younger, she used to ask about him all the time. I couldn't tell her the truth, not when I didn't know how you'd react. I told her father was someone who loved her very much but wasn't around anymore." Before Nick could respond, a voice came from the hallway, small, innocent, and curious. "Mommy, who's that?" Nick turned, and there she was. Lila Bacall. She had long, chestnut hair and wide blue eyes that mirrored Nick's exactly. Her smile was shy but curious as she stepped into the room, clutching a backpack. "Hi," she said softly. Nick froze, his heart in his throat. For a moment, he couldn't speak. All he could see was Cassie, her same sparkle, her same warmth, standing before him again, reborn in another child he'd never known existed. "Hi, Lila," he finally managed, his voice trembling. "I'm Nick." She grinned. "Hi, Nick." Then she turned to her mother. "Is he the friend you told me about?" Sienna nodded, her smile tight but tender. "Yes, sweetheart. He's an old friend." Lila giggled. "Well, you're really tall. You kind of look like me." Nick's breath caught. Sienna froze, watching him carefully. He knelt down, meeting Lila's gaze. "You think so?" She nodded eagerly. "Yeah. Mommy says I got my eyes from my dad. But you have the same ones." The words stabbed straight through Nick's heart. He smiled softly, holding back tears. "You have beautiful eyes, Lila. You should be proud of that." She giggled again. "Thanks. Do you like pancakes?" "Mommy made some." Nick chuckled quietly, his throat tightening again. "Yeah, I do." As Sienna disappeared into the kitchen, Nick sat with Lila at the small dining table, trying to memorize every detail, the way she smiled when she talked about her favorite cartoon, the way she swung her legs while eating breakfast, the way she laughed so easily. Each sound, each expression was both healing and heartbreaking. He'd missed everything, her first words, her first steps, her first day of school. All those moments that a father should be there for. He'd missed them all. When Sienna returned, she found Nick staring at Lila as if trying to absorb 10 years in 10 minutes. "She's incredible," he said quietly. "She is," Sienna agreed, her voice soft. When Lila went to grab her jacket from her room, Nick turned to Sienna, his tone more serious now. "Why didn't you tell me?" Sienna sighed, looking down. "I was scared, Nick. We weren't together, and you had Sharon. You were rebuilding your life, and I didn't want to destroy that. And later, when I wanted to tell you, it just got harder. I thought about it 1,000 times. But every time I was ready, something stopped me." Nick shook his head. "I would have wanted to know, Sienna. I would have done anything to be in her life." "I know that now," she whispered. "And I'm sorry. I truly am." Nick's voice softened. "What happens now?" Sienna hesitated. "I think that's something we'll have to figure out together. But Nick, please, don't take her from me. I don't want this to turn into a custody battle or another Newman war. Lila deserves peace." Nick sighed, rubbing his forehead. "That's the last thing I want. I just want to know her, to be part of her life." As he said it, Sharon's face flashed through his mind, the look of betrayal, the pain in her voice when she said, "You keep finding new ways to break me." Guilt washed over him. He was caught between two worlds now, one that held his past with Sharon and one that carried his future with the daughter he'd never known. Back at Crimson Lights, Sharon sat with Mariah, who had come over after hearing that something had happened. "Mom, talk to me," Mariah pleaded gently. "What's going on with you and Nick? People are saying Sienna dropped some kind of bomb." Sharon gave a bitter laugh. "That's one way to put it. She told me she and Nick have a daughter, a 10-year-old girl." Mariah's jaw dropped. "Wait, what? Nick has another kid?" "Apparently so," Sharon said quietly, her voice cracking. "And the worst part? He didn't even know." Mariah sighed, squeezing her mother's hand. "Mom, I get it, this is a lot. But if Nick didn't know, can you really be mad at him?" Sharon's eyes flashed. "Of course I can. Because somehow, no matter what happens, I'm always the one left cleaning up the mess. I trusted him again. I thought we were moving forward. But this just proves we'll never have peace. There's always another secret waiting to ruin everything." Mariah's voice softened. "You love him, Mom. You always have. Maybe this doesn't have to change that." Sharon looked away, tears welling again. "Love doesn't fix everything, Mariah. It doesn't erase the lies or the heartbreak. I can't keep forgiving him just because I love him."